now as president and CEO of MtN Group.
Yeah.
When you look at your upbringing, what is it that you got the most from your father and from your mother?
Yeah, my father's late now, so he died about 13 years ago, but my mother's still strong and going on. You know, from my parents, my father in particular, he had this belief that education will set you free. I mean, he taught, as I said, maths and physics in particular. He was passionate about maths. You know, our library was probably 3/4 maths and physics books, and then history and National Geographic books then would have been, you know, the other third. But he was a deep believer in the ability for education to transform your life, and kind of linking it back to this thing about possibilities. So it was pretty hard on us about, you know, being diligent readers, and I'll tell you an interesting story about one time the TV, you know, blew up. Remember those big TVs we used to have in the 80s? He didn't fix it for 2 or 3 years. For sure he could have fixed it, but that got us to read. So, you know, there's no TV, you can't watch Knight Rider or whatever. So myself and my siblings were always reading. So he was of the view around education will set you free. He was always a very moral guy. So, you know, he says there's always right and wrong in most situations, and lean very heavily towards the right side. I'm not sure I've always got that right from that. My mother, as I said, my mother's alive, very spiritual lady, deep in her faith. You know, from her side, it's all about, you know, this too shall pass. She has this tremendous belief that there are no situations that are permanently difficult. So, you know, this too shall pass. And as I said, we grew up, you know, I had 3 other siblings, grew up a very kind of idyllic, middle class, typical Zimbabwean lifestyle. I mean, we weren't kind of materially wealthy. We were wealthy with books and ideas. That's what we grew up and thinking about ideas. And that's why this crazy, I want to go to the moon kind of thing came from. Because I read about it, I said, oh, why shouldn't I? So surrounded by a lot of love, which created this safety net for us to explore. But I was the naughtiest of the 4. So if you ask my siblings, they'll say, well, we weren't sure this guy would be president one day, because he was very naughty as a kid. But yeah, you know, our parents gave me a very solid foundation.
So your primary school, just talk to me through your primary school, high
Mutare.
school.
Yeah,
Mutare,
primary school, I went to Mutare Junior School, a government school. We were the first black people at the school. It was a very kind of traumatic experience. You know, all your relationships have been, you know, black relationships. You don't really engage. So I went to, I think it was called Standard 1. I can't remember what these things were. No, Kindergarten 1. Kindergarten 1. I arrived at the school. This is 1979. Only black kid in the school. So I was kindergarten. My 2 elder siblings went to the proper primary school. So there are at least 2 or 3 other black kids. And it was like a complete awakening. And I remember being kind of ostracized right there at the beginning. No one wants to play with me because, you know, there's this black kid at the school. But that process also, you know, I was a bit of an athlete. So when everyone saw me, you know, winning the sack races and other things that kids do then, people wanted to befriend me. But it was also a great experience with I had really great teachers. Even at the grade 3 level, I remember a teacher called Mrs. Baisley. You know, she spoke about, you know, anything